Within the next hour or so, we'll learn whether the minority leader will come to their senses and whether they'll engage in a very first partisan filibuster of a Supreme Court nominee. All indications are that they are committed to their course. That's unfortunate. It truly is. The question you have to ask is this: what exactly is so objectionable about this nominee that he should be subjected to the first partisan filibuster in U.S. history? Is he really not well qualified? Columbia for bachelor's, Harvard for law school, and Oxford for a doctorate. He clerked for not one, but two Supreme Court justices over 10 years on the circuit court. He's had 2,700 cases. It's clear then that he is extremely well qualified. So what is it? What makes this nominee so objectionable? The truth of the matter is that throughout this process, the minority, led by their leader, has been desperately searching for a justification for their pre-planned filibuster. Over the course of the last couple of months, they've trotted out one excuse after another, but nothing will stick. They said he isn't mainstream, but that's not true. Everyone from Obama's Solicitor General to Rachel Maddow has said he's mainstream. They said he is an independent, but everyone knows that he is an independent judge. He's his own man, and he understands the role of a judge. And then they rolled out this ridiculous argument that he's for the big guy and against the little guy. Even liberal law professors like Noah Feldman made fun of that attack. He called it, quote unquote, a truly terrible idea. Then they said we should hold him responsible for the legal position that he took on behalf of the United States government. The only problem there is that we've had a lot of nominees who've represented the United States government. They worked for him, and the government was their client. The other side certainly didn't want to hold Justice Kagan responsible for taking the truly extreme position as Solicitor General that the United States government was constitutionally permitted to ban pamphlets. So that argument fell flat as well. Then, of course, after they ran out of substantive arguments against the judge and his record, they resorted to attacks on his supporters, or the president who nominated him, or the selection process. Anything to distract from the judge and this stellar record that he has. They trotted out this absurd claim that we should reject the judge, not because of some opinion he's written, but because those who support his nomination have the gall to actually speak out and make their voices heard. Except they forgot to check with their own supporters, first, to make sure none of them are spending so-called dark money. Of course, they are spending money on issue advocacy, just as the law permits and the Constitution protects under the First Amendment. As we all know, issue advocacy during Supreme Court nominations is absolutely nothing new. Those who are complaining about issue advocacy today don't seem to remember the TV ads that the far left ran attacking Judge Bork, 1987. I remember those ads. I remember the ads the left ran against Justice Thomas as well. And of course, outside groups on the left have attacked every Republican nominee since. So expressing selective outrage over issue advocacy doesn't advance their cause either, but they still keep it up. And finally, the talking point we've heard repeated most often over the last 24 hours is that candidate Trump outsourced his selection process to conservative groups. I must say, I find that argument the oddest of all. It's the kind of thing Justice Scalia would call pure applesauce. The president didn't outsource the selection process to conservative groups. He made his list public for the entire country to review during the campaign, the first president to do that. If anything, then he outsourced the selection process to who? The voters, the American people. So what do? You're out of substantive arguments from the other side? Even shots fired at the judge's supporters somehow boomerang and hit your own advocacy groups. But we've seen all of this before. I've been through a few of these debates over the years. When the Republican occupies the Oval Office, the nominees may change, but the attacks remain the same. You'll hear today the same poll-tested catchphrases we've all heard time and again. You'll hear words and phrases like outside of the mainstream, far right, and extreme. Invariably, these are words that the left tries to pin on every nominee of a Republican president and the people he submits to the Senate. With each nominee, the playbook on the left seems to be the very same. The nomination process, it seems, is a desperate attempt to retell the same old preordained narrative. So as I've said, those of us who have been through a few of these episodes have heard it all before, and we're going to hear it in the next few hours again. But this time, something is very different. This time, they intend to use the same old preordained narrative to justify the first partisan filibuster in the 220-year history of the United States Senate. And of course, this result was preordained because, as a minority leader said weeks before the president was even sworn into office, quote, "It's hard for me to imagine a nominee that Donald Trump would choose that would get Republican support that we Democrats could support," end of quote. You've already committed to the far left that you'll launch the first partisan filibuster in U.S. history. So you're stuck. You've got to press forward, don't you? Even though you know the effort is doomed to fail. You know that he'll be confirmed, and you know in your hearts of heart that he deserves to be confirmed. And that's why this is a especially sad state of affairs. And I hope that my colleagues will change their mind. I yield the floor.